Hi, I'm Rich Check, Senior Vice President of Asset Strategies International. Thank you all for joining us today as we introduce you to Asset Strategies International's new, proven strategy for keeping what's yours, rare, tangible assets. Let's face it, today's markets can be a bit unnerving, even for the more experienced investors. Just when you think you have the markets figured out, somebody opens their mouth, and before you know it, the market is moving 180 degrees in the opposite direction. Governments are insolvent, economies are stagnant, investors are frozen. And why shouldn't they be? Here are the unvarnished statistics from the Federal Reserve itself. American households lost approximately $19.4 trillion from 2007 to 2009. That's not wealth destruction. That's wealth vaporization. To put it in perspective, that's like vaporizing one home every 1.7 seconds over the period of about 2 years. Mind-boggling. It seems clear to us the traditional means of wealth accumulation and protection, stocks, bonds, and funds, have failed us all over the past decade or so. We get it. That's why ASI created the focus of today's webinar, the first in a series of webinars on the latest proven alternative to traditional investments. And by the time we're done today, we'll have accomplished 3 things. First, we will look beyond the smoke and mirrors of the short term and identify the long-term threat to your wealth. Second, we will discuss the elements of an effective and targeted solution to combat this very real long-term threat. Third, we will introduce you to 2 products ASI has included as part of its rare, tangible asset strategy, containing all the elements necessary to be a viable solution. As our starting point, let's take a look at what's going on with the economy. Back in 2007 and 2008, with the subprime mortgage crisis as a catalyst, we saw one of the single largest episodes of wealth destruction. I already mentioned the mind-boggling $19.4 trillion loss of wealth between 2007 and 2009. Think back. What did that do to you? What did it do to your family members, to your friends? Of course, the government had to act, and this is what they did. In an effort to settle the markets and restore confidence, the Fed stepped in with an accommodative policy of quantitative easing, a euphemism for the outright theft of your dollar's purchasing power. They created dollars out of thin air to purchase mortgage-backed securities and government debt. In essence, they created money from nothing to pay themselves so that we would all calm down. Well, you can add whipped cream to a mud pie, and it may look nicer, but it's still a mud pie. When the Fed thought they had done enough to kickstart the economy, they backed off and ended the first round of easing. Then, the Fed realized the economy wasn't showing signs of life on its own, so they brought in the second round of easing, QE2. Again, the Fed backed off, and realizing that the patient was still comatose, they instituted the third round of easing, Operation Twist. Wash, rinse, repeat. Next up, QE3 to infinity. And now, everyone's wondering if Ben Bernanke will keep printing dollars, taper off, or stop printing money altogether. After all, The Dow's up 15% thus far this year. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ are both up about 13% over the same period. And year on year, home prices are up about 10% from this time last year. As a result, consumer confidence is at a level of 71.6, a positive consumer comfort level we have not seen since 2005. But this shouldn't surprise any of us. Here's where we get to the smoke and mirrors. Take a look at this chart showing the Dow and pay particular attention to what happens during periods of quantitative easing, as well as what happens when the easing ends. Now, take a look at this chart showing home prices. Although it's not as distinguishable as the chart on the Dow, we see the exact same pattern. When quantitative easing is in effect, asset values inflate. The moment it stops, they come tumbling down. When Big Ben announced QE3 on September 12th of 2012, he gave us some insights into his plan during the question and answer session following the announcement. Here's what he said, and I quote, "One of the main concerns that firms have is there's not enough demand. There are not enough people coming and demanding their products. And if people feel that their financial situation is better because their 401k looks better, or for whatever reason, their house is worth more, they're more willing to go out and spend. And that's going to provide the demand that firms need to be willing to hire and to invest." Now let me paraphrase what Ben said. He said he was going to inflate stock and home prices to fool us into believing we were wealthier, so the economy could get back on the fast track to the glory days. It's like putting whipped cream on a mud pie. The only problem is, every time QE stops, the whole train stops. Not that we should be learning any lessons from the past or anything, pardon my sarcasm, but this has been going on in Japan since the 1980s. In the long term, the real threat to your wealth is exactly this type of fiscal mismanagement by politicians pretending to be economists. They spend all they want and need to get the votes to stay in power. Then they finance their spending by increasing the debt. And they devalue the currency in order to take care of that pesky debt problem. Here's a chart from the Federal Reserve clearly showing what happens to the purchasing power of your dollars over time with this approach. When the short-term smoke clears and the mirrors are taken away, this is what happens. You lose 96% of your purchasing power over a span of 100 years. Yet, as you can see from this next chart, real money, gold, holds its value as fiat currencies weaken, and it has done so for over 5 millennia. And if you followed our message over the past 30 years, this is why we always advocate you consider holding some gold as wealth insurance, first, foremost, and always. But we're not here to talk about gold per se. Instead, having exposed the emperor as having no clothes, we need to move on to how to best combat the real threat to your wealth, the loss of dollar purchasing power over time due to fiscal mismanagement. In ASI's opinion, having a diverse portfolio is key. And that diversity comes when you ensure you do not have all your assets in any one currency, in any one country, or in any one investment. This three-legged stool has served our clients well for more than 30 years now. And when we choose investment options that fit these criteria, we further look for such key elements as intrinsic value. As a defense against the mismanagement of a currency, we right away gravitate toward things that are valuable in and of themselves. No management required or desired. The investment should stand on its own legs, and it should be immune to meddling and tampering. We look for investments that are rare and desirable, because when we measure these investments with mismanaged currencies, they invariably tend to appreciate over the long haul. Lack of correlation. We also look to investments that do not ebb and flow along with the rest of the assets in our portfolio. They move to their own rhythm. They march to their own beat. This way, all of our investments are not down at the same time. They provide a buffer to our portfolio so we can calmly glide through the rough patches, such as the one we're in right now. Proven track record. We understand past performance is no guarantee of future performance. But past successes or failures still remain some of the best indicators of future performance we know. Obviously, we are looking for investment options with a strong performance. Even better, we are looking for investments that have performed well over a very long period of time during bull and bear markets and everything in between. Liquidity. We only want investments we can sell when we need to sell them. To meet this criteria, the value of the asset needs to be well recognized, even across borders. Portability. Speaking of borders, we like investments that travel well. Can you pick them up and take them with you with a fair amount of ease? Established market. This feeds into liquidity and portability, but it's more than that. The concept of an established network or market talks to the issue of trust. You should be reasonably sure the investment you hold is as stated. The seller must be legitimate and proven. The value of the asset must be authenticated by responsible, trustworthy, and independent agencies. Transparency. No smoke, no mirrors. The investment should be clear-cut, straightforward, easily understood, and it should all be documented. Finally, legacy potential. You should be able to easily pass these assets on to your heirs, either upon death or sooner, if you find that you are in a position to do so. Now, we know what you're thinking. Nothing could possibly live up to these expectations. Well, we beg to differ. We have been conducting due diligence for the past 7 years on 2 particular investments we think meet all of these criteria. And with the due diligence complete, we are excited to bring them to you as options under our new rare tangible assets strategy. The strategy is 2-pronged. One prong of the strategy involves authentic rare coins. The other prong involves authentic rare stamps. Take a look at the following chart to see how legitimate rare coins have held up in value since January of 1970. Now, take a look to see how truly rare stamps have performed since the mid-1990s. Both with stamps and coins, we have partnered with well-established experts in their fields, industry leaders. For rare coins, we have partnered with Douglas Winter, the recognized authority on early U.S. gold. For stamps, we have partnered with Stanley Gibbons, and we have been recently named the principal North American representative of this over 150-year-old world leader in stamps. We will broadcast 2 additional webinars in the coming months that speak to the specific benefits and unique characteristics of each of the prongs of our rare tangible assets strategy. But you now know what they each share in common and why ASI believes they are worthy of consideration as a portion of each and every portfolio. Now, you may have gotten the impression I have not bought into the recovery. Just because Big Ben announced his charade back in September of 2012 doesn't mean it is anything more than a charade. When the government eventually stops propping up this market, it will falter yet again. Take every opportunity afforded by short-term dollar strength to protect your hard-earned wealth for that day in the future that the Fed stimulus subsides, the smoke clears, the mirrors are shattered, and the economy is exposed like the emperor wearing his new clothes. Call today at 877-340-0790 or email me at infoasi@assetstrategies.com to learn more about rare tangible assets, the newest addition to Asset Strategies International's arsenal designed to help you keep what's yours. Again, that's 877-340-0790 or via email at infoasi@assetstrategies.com. Be sure to contact us to be placed on the waiting list for the 2 future webinars ahead of the masses. Thank you and good day.